Hi everyone, my name is Amy and today we're doing the Helms Academy's Writing Club recap from April 21st, 2020 when we talked about how to write stronger sentences. So whether you missed us live or you just want to catch up on some things that we covered in the class, come on along. So our opening question for today is, what makes writing strong or good? So think about that for yourself. What are some elements of writing that you think make it particularly strong or good? And now we're going to talk also about some things that universally you can use in all kinds of writing that will make it stronger and better. So for any sentence, any piece of writing that you're working with, there are three things that you should always check for. You should always make sure you have capital letters, correct punctuation, and a complete thought in your sentence. Those things are the foundation for making sure that your sentence makes sense, that it is clear, and that you've put together all the pieces to make sure you can communicate your message. Now, what we're going to talk about later on in this lesson is how we can really enhance the message to make our sentences even stronger, even more powerful, whether their purpose is to inform or to entertain or to convince. But these things have to be in place first. These are the foundations. So what we're going to do now is practice making some of these corrections with the capital letters, the correct punctuation, and the complete sentences. And we'll do that by looking at some incorrect sentences and figuring out what changes need to be made. Now, to be a good writer, you have to be a good editor, because writing the first draft is important and getting your ideas on paper is important. But really, the heart of writing is being able to go back and seeing what needs to be added or changed or morph. For all of us, the first draft is not the best draft. There's always something we can improve upon or make better the next time. So editing is a really important skill. Now, if you'd like to try this on your own, I'd encourage you to pause the video here, take out a piece of paper, and see what corrections you can make before we go over the answers on the next slide. Okay, let's take a look at our first example here. It says, Jim Smith's friend is a nice man. Now we're missing just a couple of things in that original sentence. We're missing one piece of punctuation at the beginning and one piece at the end. So you'll see I've added in there an apostrophe S after Smith, so that way we show possession. It's Jim Smith's friend. The friend belongs to Jim Smith. And we also need the period at the end to show that that sentence is over. In our second sentence, we see it says, going to the mall. Now, this is something we might say. If we're just informally speaking to someone, I might say, hey, going to the mall? But in this situation, we need to make sure that there's a subject and verb in the sentence. And so I've changed it here to, are you going to the mall? Now, we could say that about just about anyone. Is he going to the mall? Are we going to the mall? Am I going to the mall? But any of those are grammatically correct. For our third example, the original sentence says, my friend's house is big, red, and expensive. Now, there's a couple things we need to change here. Just like the first one, we need to put that apostrophe to make friends possessive. Now you can see on there, we could put the apostrophe before the S if we just have one friend, but if we have multiple friends who live in this house, we could put the apostrophe before the S, and that shows that there is more than one person, more than one friend living there. So we add that apostrophe, and then we also need to add some commas. You'll see there are three descriptors for the house: big, red, and expensive. So I added commas after big and red to show that those things are a list. For our fourth sentence, it says, she looked at him and said, I will be back in 5 minutes. Now, we see the quotation marks here, so we know those are the exact words that this person said. So here, we need to add a couple of things. First of all, we see that the first letter of the sentence is not capitalized. So we'll capitalize the S in she. Then we see before those quotation marks, we have to add a comma. A comma introduces quotation marks. Inside the quotation marks, we need to have a capital letter I. Anytime we write just the word I, then we have to use it in the capital form. And lastly, we need punctuation at the end of the quote. So we could choose a period or an exclamation point, but it needs to go after the word minutes and before the quotation mark. In our last example here, it says Mrs. Robinson's granddaughter, Amanda, went to visit the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. Now there are a number of corrections we need to make on this one. This is our largest one so far. First of all, let's start at the beginning. We need a capital letter for that first word, and anytime we see Mrs., M-R-S, period, we need to have a capital letter anyways. So we'll capitalize Mrs. as well as Robinson. And we need to show that the granddaughter belongs to Mrs. Robinson, so we use an apostrophe S. Now, let's move towards the end there. We're doing pretty well through the middle, but then we get to some more capitalization. The Eiffel Tower is a specific place with a specific name, and so we need to capitalize both the E and the T. And Paris, France is the same way. It's a city and a country, so we need to separate it by a comma and also capitalize both the P and the F. At the end, we make sure we have that period, carry it down from the original, and all is done. On this page, you'll see we're now going to get into how to write these stronger sentences. And one thing we need to talk about are the types of sentences that we can use. So here are 4 types of sentences, 4 structures that we can use that we know are always good for grammar. So don't get too caught up in the actual grammar here where you see subordinating conjunctions, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. If this is confusing to you at this point, that's okay. We're going to take a look at some examples and hopefully it will clear up what these different types of sentences mean. So today we're going to talk about the simple sentence, the compound sentence, the complex sentence, and the compound complex sentence. So let's look at some samples for these different types of sentences. For a simple sentence, I could say, I went to the store. Now, it has a subject, I, and a verb, went, and it even tells us where, to the store. That's a simple sentence, just one subject, one verb, and it's done. Now, a compound sentence will have 2 sets of subjects and verbs, and they'll be joined together in the middle with a word like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. So in this case, we see an example with the word and. I went to the store and my brother cleaned the house. So you see we have our subject I and verb went, a complete thought on that side. It's connected with a new complete thought on the other side using the word and our second sentence has the subject my brother and the verb cleaned. A complex sentence means that we have something called a subordinating conjunction. And a subordinating conjunction is a type of word that makes a formerly complete sentence now incomplete. So, for example, if I just said I went to the store, we know that's a complete simple sentence. But when I add the word while I went to the store, now all of a sudden I need more information. Well, what else happened? So I put it together with another complete thought, and they become together one sentence with one dependent clause and one independent clause. So we see, while I went to the store, comma, my brother cleaned the house. Now, the last one is called a compound complex sentence, and while it looks very difficult, in reality, all it is a complex sentence with a compound portion as well. Exactly what it sounds like. So let's put these together. We can see while I went to the store, comma, my brother cleaned the house and my sister mowed the lawn. All right, so if we look at this, we have 3 sets of subjects and verbs. We see while I went to the store, my brother cleaned the house, and my sister mowed the lawn. All of those are separate subjects and verbs, but because of the way we've combined them, they're allowed to be together in one complete sentence. Now, if we look at these sentences, you can see that they get more interesting with time. The first sentence is very simple and not particularly interesting, but the more that we add to them and we can play around with different types of sentences and structures of sentences, then we have a more interesting and stronger structure. Thank you all for joining me today for this Helms Academy Writing Club recap. I hope that you learned something new and will be able to take those skills to become a great writer. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and at helmsacademy.org.